no way to finance anything. So I was very interested in listening to a bank talking about not thinking just on the balance sheet, but in the whole logistic chain and the risks involved. My first question is, how many banks are thinking that way? Because normally what's happening in my country is they don't have that knowledge. They don't want to have that knowledge. They're in a comfort zone because they're financing just cars and television sets and houses, and that's it. Very, very small risk, but they're not helping the development of the country. So it's my first question again would be, are there many banks that are thinking the way you're thinking? Because that will be the only way to assist SMEs. In our case, in Corpey, we invested $1 million. We created a fund. It's a venture capital fund. We try to get the money back in 6 years, 7 years, as part of the stock when we will sell it. But that was just an alternative, and only $1 million alternative. Again, banks are not doing anything at all. So maybe an opportunity for ITC would be to try to get what we are doing right now here today and try to promote it and try to get governments and get private banks to lose that risk that they might have in investing in this type of companies and assist the growth of the country by providing this type of long and medium-term financing at a convenient rates.
Thank you very much, Andre, and then Zon, or whichever way.
Okay, thanks.
Zon, you'd like to go first.
Thank you, Ms. Very good questions indeed. I will start by answering the question on SMEs and small-scale farming. I think there are a number of ways to do this, and in Africa we've made large progress in terms of funding smaller-scale farmers, albeit the initial approach is to look at the commercial farmer. The commercial farmer is the guy with mechanization. He's the man who can buy bulk and it's got economies of scale. Around him, what we've done is successfully established outgrowers or farmers around a nucleus of commercial farmers, where in terms of the sharing of technical expertise, the sharing of bulk buying and the discounts that go with that, and also the use of equipment, combine harvesters, tractors for plowing and ripping, we found that you can make a small-scale farmer commercially viable on that basis. You will understand that Standard Chartered being a commercial and wholesale bank, we cannot do first loss guarantees and things like that. We're in this to make money, like any other enterprise. So subsistence farming at this point in time is not our approach. And you will also understand, and this may sound like a bit of a comical experience, but if you take the intrinsic value of a commodity as collateral for your loan, and you fund subsisting farmers, by virtue of the fact that he is a subsistence farmer, he's going to eat your collateral, which basically ends you up with, you've got a bit of a problem. So that might be, that's the first approach, is the nucleus of commercial farmers and then the small-scale guys around them. Other approach is to cooperatize blocks of farmers. This works quite well. It's a good one. This works quite well in terms of cooperatizing blocks of farmers. You need a single obligor. You need an entity that can take responsibility for the farmers around them. In Zambia, for instance, you would know cotton growers in the Chipata province, 30,000 of them. As a wholesale bank, I cannot bank every single one of them. So we cooperatize them, put them into blocks, have a moral responsibility, and you get the chief to sign the contract as witness. What you also have is you have companies, collateral controllers, and people that help you with the risk to go out there and make sure the farmers do plant the seed that you give them. What we've seen, for instance, in Malawi, you were right, the market is crucially important. 5 years ago, there were no sesame seeds in Malawi.
I'm
Malawi
going to ask you to wrap up so that I could give Andre a chance as well.
Excellent. Sorry, Minister. Malawi now produces 103,000 tons of sesame seeds. They did that last year, and it's not a sesame consuming market because there was a market in Tanzania for it. So there are ways and means to get seed, fertilizer, and technical expertise back to the farmers.
Thank you, Mr. Zan. I didn't know SCB was carnivore, because when the farmer, subsistence farmer, eats his crop, he eats the farmer after. So, one thing is very important to finance SME, is to understand the value chain where the SME is placed. One, we have to define what is the SME. If I take the case of, for example, Zambia. Zambia, 5 years ago, produced 800,000 tons of maize. Today, they produce 2.2 million tons of maize. They don't have a market. But they have one thing, they have infrastructure, which they didn't sell. They have 2.2 million tons of warehousing available. What we have done, about 6 months ago, these warehouses were empty. The government budget was only equivalent of 25,000 tons. What we have done is we have restructured completely the financing by not putting a burden on the government, but putting a burden on the banks who finance the maize, which is collateralized and warehouse receipt in the different shed, which is owned by FRA. But now the big challenge is how the small SME, the small trader, can supply now a market, which is FRA, and FRA create enough trust to supply the miller. This is what is a new challenge. Now, what we have done is we have identified the value chain, we have identified in each sector the various actors, we understand who they are, and from there we try with the government and with the finance commercial bank to act. But where is the role of the government? Since they don't have a market, the government is going to take the price risk, which after analysis of the swing T, we found out that it will be around 30%. So 30% is taken as a security by the government on price fluctuation, and 70% is being financed by the commercial bank. So we are acting in different places. You took the question of cocoa in Côte d'Ivoire, for example. In Côte d'Ivoire, you have about 600,000 tons of cocoa storage financed by the Ivorian, small SME or medium SME, whatever name you talk, which are not financed. In the meantime, you have the big multinational coming, opening their own store, opening their own processing, and export their cocoa. Why? Because they have a market and the Ivorian doesn't have a market. That is the point. Now, what...
I'm going to ask you to wrap up.
Where is ITC is very important. Our job is not to educate the banker how to finance every day, transaction-based. If ITC can play this role, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. You want to wrap up as well?
I just
Very
would
shortly.
like to add to what Andrea said. If a consortium of small companies in a particular cluster try to form a company to tap the equity market, just to give an idea, if your fundamentals are good, each one of you, this is one of the areas where money could be, we all suffer as SMEs not to go into the equity market, which is the best way of getting a finance, where the corporates succeed. This is one of the areas that what ITC could play a role, perhaps.
Thank you, Stephen. Would you just like to give your final comments, and then Bernard? Or the other way around? Could we give Stephen and Bernard mics, please? They're sitting right in front. Do we have a mic for Stephen, please? And then one for Bernard as well.
Thank you. Question I would have for the panel is more again looking at it from a transportation standpoint. The question would be is what would be the role that you think logistics and transportation providers could assist in this process, given the fact, and this is the key here, given the fact that we as transport operators